Good afternoon, my name's Robert and today I'm interviewing Simon from Blacklight. Simon's a Silverlight specialist and he's a lot of pain and troubles he's gone through to actually to learn what he's learnt and be a sort of a leader in this field. So thanks Simon for your time today.
Thanks Rob.
So you started with the betas of Silverlight 1 and there weren't any controls and there weren't any sort of easy features and so on. I mean, what was the first sort of things you had to build it?
Starting with the beta, Microsoft didn't give us any controls to play with natively. So a lot of the stuff we had to do, we had to make ourselves. And I must admit the strongest thing or the most difficult thing that we had to achieve was the paradigm shift, because a lot of us are old Flash designers. And looking at this new technology that Microsoft's bringing out, the Silverlight technology, we're looking at it and saying, this is powerful, this is going places, we need to get into this. So playing around with it, luckily we had a bit of middle ground, JavaScript. So Silverlight 1 was full on JavaScript and sitting down and once you get your head around the logic of the different types of paradigms you're working with, like timelines and animations run by time, we sat down and we started seeing the power in it. Working with inside the program's a great program to use, and we're talking about the Expressions Blend program, which is inside Expressions Suite. And sitting and having the opportunity, because with Flash specifically, and that's where we come from and that's why I'm referring to it, one of the things that we found difficult to do was to tie in and marry together the developers and the designers. And that's what Silverlight allowed us to do, even in version 1. Now that we've got version 2, it's absolutely incredible. We're using managed code now, and we've got controls. So, we're dragging and dropping things straight into our application. We're data binding it in 2 clicks, and we've got something that works, and it gives us opportunity to make it, more sexy within Silverlight applications and WPF.
Okay, you mentioned that you're using managed code in Silverlight 2, which is still in beta though. So one of the sort of worries out there is, do you stay in that beta sort of phase, a bit riskier, or do you rather just go back and work with Silverlight 1, at least it's RTM?
Sure, good question. I must admit, personally, if I've got a deadline that needs to be done within a week, I'll mostly fall back on Silverlight 1, to be honest. Primarily because we've spent so much time learning that, that's our playground or our sandbox that we're comfortable in. We know, how far the limits go out, and we can work really efficiently inside it. The only thing that makes it really difficult and makes that choice very difficult at the moment is that we're skilling up. Initially, we're not C# coders. So we're learning it, and it's not really that difficult to learn once you understand the concepts. But the controls are so powerful. And recently we've just done a super sexy Silverlight control for a CMS implementation, and we did a calendar. And initially we thought, wow, let's use Silverlight 2 because it's got a calendar inside. The calendar's great, it works really well, but it's a great date picker. If you want to select, for example, or have multi-dimensional type of events within a calendar, you really need to do some of the work yourself. And we used Silverlight 2 for that, even though we had a short deadline, and I must admit, we're not sorry. The way that managed code, and remember, we're new to managed code. This is something that is really new to us, where we can build things and reuse them over and over again, just by tweaking just different colors and updating different methods. It really is a big thing for us. And I know with most of the guys that, especially at a thing like TechEd, we're noobs here. We're good at design and we understand user interfaces, and we understand that the user experience is paramount, and that's powerful. But for all the stuff that we're seeing, really our minds are getting blown away. And sometimes we give some positive criticism on how things can look a bit better. But the thing is that it is really powerful, and going forward, most definitely I'd commit to using Silverlight 2, and so much so that we're using time and resources to get the guys skilled up in the graphic department. So not only do we have great designers, we want to have designers that understand a little bit of what they're building into. So why namespaces are so important, why naming conventions are so important, so that we can hand over applications, online applications and desktop applications seamlessly.
Silverlight 1, JavaScript based, Silverlight 2, you've got managed code. There's no sort of upgrade path between the two.
You know, JavaScript and JavaScript's like water for me, really. It'll fit in anywhere. You know, it has three. It can be all three states: solid, gas, and water. So, JavaScript, you can rely on JavaScript asynchronously, and you got Ajax and so forth. So we can still do the managed code things with Silverlight too, and use JavaScript to run different things. And I must admit, one of the best demos that I saw, and it was at Partner Summit last year, and it was just when Silverlight was just starting to get a bit of momentum in South Africa. And what made us decide that we're going to do something within the sphere and change our whole business model and move into Silverlight and, you know, stop using other more traditional tools. And the demo was a Silverlight application with a Adobe Flash application on a screen that had a ball bouncing from left to right. And you could actually see the ball move from the left-hand side, which was your Silverlight application, straight across to your right-hand side, which was your Flash application, seamlessly. And this is what makes it powerful, is that now, you know, with products like this, we really have more tools in our toolbox, so we can really use the right tool for the right job. And that's what I like.
That's a great point there, and it's sort of a key feature of Silverlight is that there is actually a special set of tools. You know, my development background, I've, you know, worked in Visual Studio, and I don't think that really is good for designers. It doesn't really give you what you're looking for. Expressions Blend, though, is the tool to use. And I mean, how does that compare to other tools out there on the market and similar application type things? And would you prefer to be using that, or, you know, how has Visual Studio been for you as a designer as well?
Again, Rob, as I was saying, right tool for the right job. So Expression Studio comes with many wonderful tools, and one of them is Expressions Designer. And as a vector art generation tool, Expressions Designer is pretty good. So you'd sit down and you create everything, and remember, we're creating things in XAML, which is power. So, you know, we can visualize what it is that we want to put together when it comes to creative. So we can sit down and say, move that square there, move that there, kill that gradient, put that drop shadow there, and so forth. But we can then look on the back end of that, and we can say, all right, listen, inside the code, we want to reuse that again. So let's just copy that piece of XAML and let's save that, because that's a really nice effect. And then we can create a library of code which will influence how it is that we're doing our art. And Blend as a tool is very good for what you want to do. So if you're creating a WPF application, and it doesn't necessarily have to work independently. So you were saying, you had a good point, whereas you'd work in something like Visual Studio, I'd work in something like Blend. And you could go and you could create your whole working application with all of your buttons, with all of your code and your methods, and you could basically hand it over to me, and I could open it up in Blend. So I could take the button and I can move it to the left-hand side, and I could set up my user interface. And we're not talking about very difficult jobs for designers. You know, this can be done in really quick time. We can just grab it, move it, and it's still a working application. So we can F5 it, it can pop up, and we can see how it looks and how it works, and how the navigation runs through and draws through, and what our overall user experience is. Blend as well is very sexy when it comes to putting media inside, like video. So if I wanted to put a video inside a WPF application, it's really as simple as dragging and dropping from my library onto my desktop. Setting up the player and so forth is a bit more complex, and it's really an exciting place to be working at the moment, especially as designers, because we're getting more opportunities. Yeah.
One of the toughest sort of things I think we've discussed, and one of the hurdles that you had to cross was, you know, developers traditionally have been handled off these little assets, these graphic assets, and put it on the forms and put it together, and now they're having to sort of release that control. How are you finding, I mean, working with developers, and how are you easing that sort of tension that's there?
I think I understand what you're saying about the tension, and it's tangible, no doubt, but the way that I feel is, and let the person that is more efficient at the specific task do the work. And I'm sure that most programmers feel the same, whereas we've spoken to programmers, we've sat down with programmers, and it really is a schlep for them to try and be creative. You know, they think in logical lines and in straight paths, and sitting down and trying to make something beautiful for a client, you know, for a meeting that's 2 hours away, really puts pressure on them. Whereas designers, that's what we do every single day. And you know, it really is that first impressions count, and we've seen it a lot in our industry where we'll put something together, a multimedia component, and before you can even get into the functionality on how well this thing works, the client will comment about its sexiness. Because it's the first thing that they see, and the user interface. So I think going forward, it's going to be a happy marriage. We're still courting at the time being, so we're still wooing each other and showing each other how good we are in our own disciplines. But I think it's going to be a powerful marriage when it comes to design and development. And overall, the winner is going to be the user. We're going to have user experiences that are unheard of, things that are fun to use, exciting to use, information that's delivered to you, not fed to you. It's an exciting place to be, and with the web and with multimedia, it's converging. So we're getting close, and one day the perfect human being will be a designer that can program really well, and you'd be able to write your own ticket. Fortunately for your field and my field, it's a very difficult thing to get. Otherwise, we'd have problems. But yeah, no.
Oh, cool. Designers, going back to them and their importance, you've got all these really sexy things out there with Silverlight. These carousels, these graphs, these sorts of things.
Just hold on a second. A carousel's not really that sexy, but carry on.
But, I mean, there's a lot of functionality and sort of dynamic content there. And my sort of view of it from a developer point of view is you require a lot of maths and understanding of like all these sort of trigonometries and geometries to actually be able to do those. I mean,
the almighty 3D engine. WPF comes with a 3D engine, but Silverlight doesn't. So you're going to have to do a bit of work unless you snap in a physics engine of some sort. And it is maths and sitting down. And fortunately for myself and some of the guys on the team, we know smart guys like you. And sitting down, and we'll design what we need to do, and we'll animate it and show you how it should look. And then you can work out how you're going to spin these 4 points, in our 3 axes of X, Y, and Z. And then we'll take that and we'll change the skin and change the scope, and we'll have our 3D engine.
Okay, cool. 3D, do you think that will come into Silverlight?
No doubt. As soon as broadband is here, and it's here to stay, we know this. But really, we haven't really got to the point that we need to be with broadband. But as soon as it becomes available, we won't interact with websites as we're accustomed to now. And I'm talking short term. It's not going to be, at the moment, everything is still facts driven, if you catch my drift. I was watching, actually, I watched Back to the Future 3 like the other day, and in that whole thing, because it was made in, I'm sure, in the early 90s or something, when the guy gets fired, he gets like 25 faxes throughout his house. So there's no such thing as the internet or email or so forth. There's just lots of fax machines. So the fax machines become really accessible. And that really is how we're sitting today, is that our websites are still brochureware. There's still websites that you click that have navigation on the left-hand side. It's changing. And it's changing quickly. If you look at some of the stuff, for example, Deep Zoom is a new Microsoft product, and you can look at hardrockmemorabilia.com, and you can see a shop where, or not even a shop, but a catalog where they've got a huge amount of products that they need to display, and they've displayed it differently. So now you have full control over dragging and so forth and so on. And usually what you would have sacrificed with that is how you manage your data and how you catalog this stuff. So we'd have this huge pretty picture of all of these wonderful guitars and so forth and so on. But the problem is you wouldn't be able to sort them as per data. And if you look there, you can actually. So you can turn things on or off, and your interface will actually adapt to how you're viewing it and how you're using it. It really is revolutionary, and going forward, as I said to you, it's for the first time, graphic designers are going to be the rock stars of the internet, and with a wonderful marriage of our partner drummers, which are the developers.
Oh, excellent. Well, thanks for taking the time today, man, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of Tech It.